Welcome to the Real Dad Podcast. I'm back and it's Dave.
I'm Mark.
I'm Joey.
You.
I
Fuck
didn't know
you.
what was going to happen.
No, I'm not throwing it off. The equilibrium is not happening. Sorry. Not today, Satan.
And who are you, sir?
I'm Ryan, and I'm thrilled to be sitting beside Mark.
For those of you who aren't seeing the
Dad.
visuals to go along with here, we switched our seating for the first time
Ever.
in 5 years of doing this. 4 years of doing this.
Because we
It's
figured.
true.
Has it been that long that we've been in that seating arrangement?
Yeah,
I've
we've
sat
never-
beside you even when
Literally
we were in the
every
old
episode.
booth.
Yeah.
That's
every
bizarre. I
single
never
episode.
thought that it was that routine.
It was.
So we had our producers, I guess we can call them Aiden and Aaron from Two Blue Shirts.
No,
in.
then we have to give him credits.
Yeah.
I mean, we
editors,
probably
editors.
should be giving them credits. They should have been crediting themselves
That's fair.
in all of these.
Yeah.
But we had
Dum-dums.
them in for a little consult now that we've got the new podcast space set up. We got our cameras set up. And one of the things they said was in all these clips, Mark and I are doing a lot of the talking. And it's just us beside
You
each
think?
other. So
Yeah.
they threw out a, hey, what about maybe this crazy idea of switching the seats? And we were like, sure, let's just throw a wrench in and see.
We'll see how it comes out in the wash. you know?
Yeah.
What's a runch?
It's not a runch, Dave.
It's a
what's
brunch.
a runch?
not a runch.
It's a wrench.
It's a
It's
wrench.
a wrench.
It's a wrench.
Okay,
I'm not
wrench.
going crazy.
No.
It's been a family thing that it's a
Yeah.
wrench, not a wrench. I forget.
That's not real.
I feel like no, it's like
You're
a
lying to
inside
cover up
joke.
your mistake?
No,
It's a
like it's an
Kenny's thing.
actual like
Okay,
inside
okay.
joke
You're
where like
aware that
somebody
you're
had
doing it.
screwed it up once,
Okay.
and it's become a wrench instead of a wrench,
Yeah.
That's really committing to a bit.
I think it was a wrench that happened during a lunch.
and it became,
a wrench.
I don't know. It's just become a thing. Like it's an
I'm trying to make
automatic.
sense of it, and I don't think I
Throw
need
a
to make
wrench
sense of
into
it.
it.
I think we just need to accept it.
What are we talking about tonight?
I'm back
The right.
to the land of the living. I missed one episode,
Yep.
and guys, it hurt. It hurt a lot.
It was a
Isn't
lot.
it weird when you listen back
so
and you're not
weird.
in there and
I was
you're like,
telling Brian, I'm like, there's so many things I wanted to say.
you want to say?
And I was going to be on the opposite side of you guys. You were talking about how you loved it. And I spent my Christmas, my wife was kind of sick on Christmas Day when my family came. So we were in charge of mashed potatoes. I had to like man the kitchen, make the mashed potatoes, do all of the things that normally my wife would
you're
be
social.
doing. And I'm the social
Yeah.
one. I like being out there talking to people. I don't like the
I
like
don't.
being secluded in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And then it was like too many people in my space in there, and I'm like, you're trying to have a conversation while you're like worried about something burning, and I couldn't do both things.
No,
because I'm
no.
like,
You only
I
do
need-
one.
Yeah. It's,
Worry about the burning and let them converse out.
So I
Those
just,
are
I
some
couldn't
rubbery
do it.
potatoes for sure.
Yeah.
I forgot
They
those.
were quite delicious. My wife walked me through her methods,
Okay.
and she's got a lot of methods. There's a lot of butter, some
She makes great
rosemary.
mashed potatoes.
Mashed potatoes are on point. That was my grandma's thing. Her mashed potatoes were always like hands down the best thing. She made grandma's mashed potatoes, and even Joy, because I would brag about this. And when we were dating, and she came to my grandma's house, she's like, "Let me see these mashed potatoes. There's no way." And she's, oh damn, they're that good.
Oh, damn.
So she has been trying her whole life to match my grandma's mashed potatoes, and she is. I think she's there.
Interesting.
She's there. They're so good.
My grandma's was baked beans, and I've been smoking every Sunday since Christmas, like smoking
okay,
in
yeah.
the smoker.
Yep.
And this weekend was baked beans, so I did Nana's baked beans.
Nice.
And the rule is that I have to be cooking. So Robin is like a great cook, so she comes into the kitchen this weekend and she wants to help. I'm like, get the fuck out of the kitchen. This is my thing.
All right.
So I've got the meatloaf on, I've got the potatoes going, and then I'm about to cook the baked beans, but I'm stressed because it's Nana's beans. And so she's like literally over my shoulder. Like, you got to put this in, you got to put that. And I'm like, respectively, you're making me nervous. Fuck off. So she leaves and I fuck it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, of
Because
course.
she's like, she comes back in, she's like, that's a tablespoon, not a teaspoon. We would have had like crazy. I'm like, get out of the kitchen. Anyways, I messed it up. I put in less of what I was supposed to. She was able to save it. But
Very
yeah,
good, very
I was
good.
happy to have her in the kitchen in the long run.
There you go.
You did good, kid.
So you guys talked a little bit about the holidays,
We did.
and obviously me not being there. I had one of the worst sicknesses that I have had to date. And this has been a run, like you said, in our family. We had like a small little healthy stretch. But before that, it was kind of just like a cough that was lingering around. You could still do life. You could still kind of get around, and you just had this annoying cough that was lingering. This was COVID 5.0. It was something. It was 4 days of fevering. There was vomiting. There was loss of all taste buds in my mouth, which was one of the worst aspects of being sick. Because if you're sick, you can at least have your comfort food to make you feel better, something like that. Doritos tasted like the worst thing I've ever had.
Who eats Doritos when you're sick?
Anybody.
You
look in the
don't?
cupboard.
I thought you just ate them always.
something.
What do you mean?
I was pretty sure you had a cologne that was Doritos.
I have underwear that are Doritos.
Yeah, you do.
But
I tried pizza, everything.
Who
there
eats
was
pizza when you're sick?
no flavor.
This
I
guy.
got soup. Stick to soup, man.
This is like
Chicken. Have you heard of chicken noodle?
So there was chicken noodle soup. There was crackers. That was in the puking stage when I was in that. It was
This
like
is more coming
I would
out of
hold
it.
down like toppable crackers. There's an ongoing joke in Joey's house because toppable crackers.
No, and I think
Like,
you messed that up too.
no, listen.
Top of the
They're
crackers.
the
topical.
rectangle like crackers. And we were at Joey's house. This is before kids. I think when I was dating his wife, and I think somebody was eating them, and his dad walked in and was like, "That's a real expensive snack." And it became a joke that they're an expensive snack.
What are they?
Toppable, they're just fucking
Crackers.
crackers. They're a step up from your like saltine crackers.
Oh, but I love a saltine.
They're just a little bit more buttery. They're a little longer.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Who the fuck eats crackers?
As a snack?
Probably my brother,
Yeah,
Josh.
you put peanut butter on a cracker. Joey used to put peanut butter and like
Oh,
fake
peanut butter and cheese? Have you ever done this?
on a cracker.
Buddy, live a little. Some crackers, some peanut butter.
I
some
grew
baked
up in the
cheese.
ghetto.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much, we literally ate those things, but we never ate them together, especially when we're throwing up, vomiting sick.
Yeah. Oh, I never do it sick. That's madness over here, but
Like, what do you eat when
Anyways.
you, like, chicken noodle soup?
Yeah, brothy things.
Some
No,
sort
okay.
of citrusy
So-
fruit?
Vitamin C.
When I was throwing
Some sort of orange? Ginger ale, I'll accept.
Ginger ale, yes. Ginger ale is a go-to. So, anyways, I was eating these crackers because I couldn't eat anything else at this point. This was the day
Because
that
you're
I
eating
had.
pizza and you're at a 3-year-old's birthday party, for fuck's sakes. Pizza
Now
and
we
chips
know why Dave was
is
sick
his
for so
diet.
long.
Guys, I can't kick this thing for crying out loud. Oh my god. Are you kidding me?
I should have given a better time.
Yeah, you did.
Salty, greasy fuck.
the best part I know is I know the timeline, and you just didn't give it well.
No, I
so you
don't.
deserve everything that's happening right now.
Honestly.
And I don't regret it. I don't regret it at all.
What the hell is happening?
All I wanted to say was when I had a day when I was throwing up and I threw up the crackers that were the expensive snack.
Oh,
And
no.
I came back into the room with my wife and I was like, that was a really expensive vomit. It was like
Nice, that
a
was.
little like inside family
Yep,
joke
yep,
into my sickness.
Yeah, thanks for bringing me on board with that.
But it was absolutely awful. But one of the things I wanted to say was I've never really thought that I have like a fear of missing out, like the whole FOMO aspect of things, until all of this kind of came in. And I had a really emotional moment when I was sick because
Sorry, all of what came in? The sickness?
the sickness, because it hit over the holidays. And like we have been sick over holidays or vacations as a family before. It often happens with kids in school. You're getting a bug around this time. It's shared. It comes home. Everybody's home for the holidays and it hits, right? But it hasn't often happened to me. And in this way to shut things down in this traumatic of a fashion. So there was a bunch of things that I had missed out on from my wife's previous sickness, as far as like one of her buddy's 40th birthday, some big events, like hanging out with friends. And it's like, okay, you can kind of push that aside. You got to stay home. You got to take care of the family and do that thing. But then over the holidays, there was a bunch of stuff that I had planned and wanted to do with the kids. We got membership at the local community center, wanted to take them skating. We got swimming passes there so we can go swimming. We can do all these fun things there. And I couldn't do any of that. There was a period where I was sick and my wife wasn't quite sick yet. She got to take the kids to Joey's house for New Year's Eve, and I had to stay home and miss out on the fun New Year's Eve party with the kids. That kind of like, it sucked. It blew. It was awful. And then there was a skating event that happened with our church. Couldn't go to that with the kids. Couldn't go, like, there was a bunch of things that I couldn't go do, and I was like physically unable to do it. One, you don't want to spread the sickness that you have, and two, you just wouldn't have been much fun to be there anyways. But I got really emotional because I was just getting so upset, and I said to my wife, I'm just like, I'm so frustrated that I'm not able to do all of these things and be there, and my kids aren't getting the holiday that I wanted them to have. And it was just like really hitting because this sickness just was not going away. And then my wife got sick as well, so we were both kind of sick within it. It was just a terrible time of missing out on a bunch of fun, exciting things that were happening in our life. Like even missing out on a podcast was something that I haven't had happen before. And we had already canceled one previously because I was still sick, and then it was still, Dave's still not better. Guys, please record. Just do something without me. It's going to be okay. But then there's like just that feeling, and when you're sick and like the things that you would do to normally restore your happiness,
like Doritos
you
and
can't
pizza.
do. The food that I would normally want to eat, the whiskey, hanging out with friends, being with people, going to sports, doing activities. I had like the whole New Year's thing planned. Me and a couple buddies were going to be doing this 30 days of yoga. I've been saving a bunch of kettlebell workouts that I was going to go do at the gym. This whole like exciting New Year's thing, and this sickness just kind of like kiboshed it,
See,
blew
for
it
me,
up, and ruined everything.
That sounds like a dream come true. Like I wish.
Shutting shit
I don't
down.
want to wish upon sickness, but like I could use some time away.
And to be honest, when the sickness first started to come, when I started to feel that, you know, that like back of the throat, you're like, fuck, I know I'm getting sick right now. There was a little bit of me that was okay with that, where it was like, you know what? You get sick, but you're shutting everything down. You don't have any responsibilities. But this sickness, I would not wish upon anybody.
Because then it stayed, right?
It stayed. It didn't go away. And it felt like you were never going to get out of it. You stopped understanding what normal was like, and you weren't seeing progression in any way. If anything, you were like, okay, like it should be done now. And then it got worse. Weird. And then I went to the doctor, got some antibiotics, and then it got worse again. And then couldn't continue on those. And it just kind of like continued to pile on. And I had all these plans, and it all got ruined, and it just sucked.
Well, I think there was a lot of expectation. There already is around the holiday season, right? Like as a parent, you're trying to make this holiday season for your kids, right?
Yeah.
So like you said, you had built that up in your head of the things you wanted to do to give them the experience that you wanted them to have, and then to have that pulled away by something that's completely out of your control. Like that adds a ton of frustration, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, and I think my kids would probably say that they had a great holiday.
Right.
And they got to experience it in a very different way. We like unlocked screen limits. They got to play on screens, but they also really stepped up in an amazing way and helped at like within the home, where my wife and I were both KO'd for at least 2 days. My daughters set up like this restaurant in our living room. They set up forts and tents. They made fake money, a fake register. They brought up a walkie-talkie to our bed so we could message them, and they would bring us food and stuff. Like
That's awesome.
my daughters, my son, he pretty much just stayed on his video games most of the time. He brought in some cute moments here and there, but my daughters took like such great care of my wife and I. So they had. I would be interested to know from their point of view. It's not something I've asked them, but like it forced them to step up in a different way that we normally wouldn't ask them to do things. And they really like rose to the occasion, and we were so grateful. Like we were worried about how the kids would be while we were sick, and they just were phenomenal, which was like the one blessing in amongst the craziness of sickness.
Giving your kids the chance to surprise you is interesting. Where like I've had that recently with Cooper and skating. We started them with skating lessons, and we had already been to a few free skates. But I realized that like as much of a hands-off parent as I am, in those situations, I tend to be very hands-on. Where like I would get him set up with one of the things you can hold on to while he skate around the ice, and I'd be behind him the whole time. And anytime he started to fall, I'd catch him and pick him back up. And like I wasn't giving him an opportunity to figure out how to skate, is what I realized. Because as soon as we started, it's can skate is the one we're doing. I watching them and these teachers do it, because there's 40 kids on the ice and there's maybe 10 instructors. They can't do that with every kid.
Right.
And like at the beginning, I'm like, well, shit, how the hell are they going to learn? Like they don't have an instructor with them teaching them how to do this. And then I realized that's part of their process. Like these kids go out and they have to figure out how to get up off the ice, how to start moving on their own. And they give them an opportunity to do that, which was interesting. And like Cooper's taken to skating really well. Now, obviously that isn't going to work with every single kid because every kid's different and they're going to learn at a different pace. But it taught me something in that, okay, maybe sometimes I do have to give these kids an opportunity to just screw up and fall and get hurt. And well, not necessarily get hurt, but the next time we went out for a free skate, I treated it much more similarly to what they did. I didn't give them the thing to hold on to. I was like, nope, you're not getting that this time, buddy. Like you've already had your time of skating. I know you can do this. I'll still be right here. But I tended to hang back a little bit more. I wasn't holding him around the waist the entire time. And then by the end of that free skate, it got to the point where he looked back at me and Meg and was like, no, you're not allowed to watch me. Like, stay back. You're not watching me this time. I'm going out on my own. So like, that was just like a cool little moment for me, because I realized that in that context, I definitely was a lot more like, nope, I don't want anything to happen. I don't want your head to hit the ice. I don't want this to happen. But giving them the opportunity to kind of figure it out on their own was good for them. So
I saw a video where the I don't know what she was, but she basically said like the more opportunities you give your kids to figure things out for themselves, the more likely they are to be like to develop those critical thinking habits. And the best one is when it's cold outside and you know that it's like you want to go, can I go outside and play? Sure. So right now in Canada, it's winter, there's snow on the ground. So they just put their coats on and maybe their hat and they go outside. And then like 2 minutes later, they come back in and be like, you know how cold it is out there? I need my snow pants. I need my mittens. I need my thing. Versus you telling them that they need all those things and then them just kicking up and like causing a huge fight. So that was kind of like, I was like, oh, I'm going to use that one this weekend.
This is one of the not biggest things. That's an over exaggeration. But with Meg and I, she definitely has this passed down from her mother. Love Judy to death. But she very much comes from the generation of people in Newfoundland where it's like, no, you cannot go outside unless you have all your things on.
Right.
Yes.
Where like Meg's brought on a bit of that. She's like, nope, if you don't put your gloves on, then we're not going. I'm like, babe, no.
Yeah.
Let them go out without gloves. We'll throw them in the backpack. Like we'll have them. That's our job as the parent. You have the thing. But if they're going to make a choice to go out without any of that stuff on, that's a choice they have to make, because they have to realize this on their own, that like it's a bad choice.
I took my son to get a haircut this weekend.
Okay.
His first one since September. Bro had like the worst emo flow going. And like there's nothing wrong with that, but like it really upset my wife.
Okay.
And to the point where like we live in a small town, there's only one barbershop and this guy makes up his own hours. Like we tried so many times over the Christmas break to go and it was closed on like a random mass day. No sign, no nothing. And you can't call, none of it. Okay. It's a weird setup.
You got to know a guy who knows a guy.
Exactly. So basically I go on the Tuesday and I was like, I need to bring my son in on Saturday, 10:30. They know me because of my son.
Okay.
He hates getting his hair cut, to the point where like we had to put Jurassic Park on the little thing just to get him to shut, because it scared him a little bit too much.
Right.
Just enough to get his hair cut.
Right.
Anyways, this delightful young treat kicked, punched, bit, scratched. We're like, we have to get your hair cut. He protested the thing to the point where it's snowing. I have him like a sack of potato over my shoulders. He's kicking me so hard that his boot flew off. Oh, jeez. Robin comes out and she's like, do you want to just cancel? I was like, no, because he is going to kick and punch. We're going to give in and this is going to be his out. He needs to learn that we are I'm not backing down.
Sticking to it. Yeah.
So I walked out of there looking like Street Fighter at the end. He punched me so many times that I was like, oh my gosh, on the thing. And then I felt terrible. Like I was like taking this kid against his will. And like, I tried to put on a show on my phone. He took my phone and threw it. Like we live like our driveway is a bit elevated, and then there's like a forest beside it. And he tried to throw it in the forest. I was like, oh, there's not enough Hail Marys to get me through this.
Yeah.
And we're out of town, so like the drive into town's probably like 12, 13 minutes. Okay, and so within and then Robin's just like, are you sure? Like, are you sure you want to do this? Here's his boot back. Do you want to like think? And he's in the car, and I was just like, that walk from like putting him into his car seat around the car.
This was just to get into the truck?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bro,
Okay.
It was a fucking nightmare. Like I was so mad and defeated just from going from living room to car seat.
Yeah.
Car seat, yep.
So then I get in and I'm driving and he's screaming and yelling and he's just kicking the thing. I have to push the seat up so that he can't kick the thing 'cause I'm still in a rental. So I'm driving. I get to the thing and same thing. He's screaming bloody murder. The thing we get out and now I'm on the street with the sack of potato in my hands. He's kicking and screaming. We walk into the barbershop and instantly he shuts up. Instantly. Guy's name's Andrew. He goes, Mark, how's it going? I was like, good, buddy. And then the other guy's like, oh, bro, like we're backed up. And I was like, nice fucking try. I have an appointment at 10:30 and I don't care who I got to kill, but he's getting in that fucking seat.
Yeah.
And then Andrew's just like, no, he's on the list for like 10:30, whatever. So literally get in, put him on my thing. Not a fucking tear.
Yeah.
Really?
Not a tear the whole entire time we get his haircut.
Okay.
Not a tear thing. And then we get it. He's like, Dad, can I go get some Timbits now that I was a nice guy? And I'm like,
my God.
I need to call Joey and get his therapist's number after this session.
Damn.
And it, like, I don't know what it was or like if I traumatized him, but it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do because every ounce of me wanted to give up and just say, fuck it. Like, don't get your hair cut. I don't give a shit.
Because I think there's probably two philosophies of thought as to how you should or
And
could
neither one's
handle
right.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. You just have to go with what you feel in the moment, like you need to. And I think it clearly, like, you got him there and he went through the motions and did the thing. I was expecting more fight throughout the haircut.
And he has fought since the very first haircut. I think when we went to his very first one, so he must have gotten nicked.
Right.
Right.
It was some girl, and I think it was her first time cutting a little kid's hair, and like, because he was okay, and then the buzzers like touched the skin, and then he started screaming, and he was so young he couldn't. And I just think he associates that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every single time we've gone, it's gotten better and better and better. But I think the problem is we've waited for so long. Like his birthday is like in September, so like we waited way too long for that journey. But it was like it took every ounce of fatherhood I had to not just like say fuck it. I'm not doing this again. I'm not
That's
going
the
back.
thing they don't prepare you for is like the moments where it's going to take everything that you have to do the stupidest thing.
Yeah.
Like take your kid to get a haircut, but it literally takes every ounce of like energy, patience, all of the things. That
But you know, honestly, one of the hardest things for me in that moment, love my wife to death, but like I looked at her and there was like a look of fear in her eyes. And for me in that moment, I was like, I don't know. It made me feel either she doesn't have faith that I can do this, or she's nervous for me, or she wants to like kind of be there. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I think it's an awkward situation, right? To be the extra person in, like to be the spouse in, because
the spectator, right?
you see the struggle. You don't know whether or not you should jump in to help or if you should let them do what they're doing. And then there's also the mother instinct of you're taking my screaming kid somewhere that he doesn't want to go. And like, there is that like want to save them from the situation. But then by doing that, are you causing a fight? Are you making things worse? Like, I think there's a lot wrapped up in that moment to be a bystander.
I'm not saying I'm violent by any stretch of the imagination, but my resting bitch face is on fleek. So when I'm upset, it's just cranked up a little bit.
Yeah.
So it might be a little bit more intense when I'm like upset.
Right. And there's like a look of like, I don't know how to read his face right now. What's happening?
So I think, and I'm using like, I'm like pinning him down. I'm not hurting him or anything. And I have 6 brothers, so I kind of know how to put people in positions they don't want to be in without hurting them necessarily, you know? So I'm like he's fighting me and I'm just like talking through your teeth kind of thing. And I think that drew some fear for her. Like, is he going to pop the head off my kid kind of thing?
Yeah.
But she's like, do you want me to do this? And I was like, I want you to do all of it. I want you to take him in. I want you to cut his hair. Like, I'm ready to do it right now. And it is one of those things where it's like, every kid's completely different. I'll take my daughter to get haircuts all day long. It is the best day ever. But with him, for whatever reason, So
now that he's had a good barber experience, do you think the next time will be the same fight?
I don't.
Because that's the thing that I
know.
find interesting. And like one thing that I wished that I had have done more of with my son was take him to more places that he has the potential to be uncomfortable in, or that would be a new experience, so that he could experience those in new, safe ways. So he got to experience that with you. He was still safe. You still had control of him. You weren't going to let him get into harm, but you were taking him to something that was uncomfortable for him. And he had a positive experience as an outcome to it. So he was faced with something he didn't want to do, but everything worked out.
Yeah.
Obviously, if this barber had have screwed things up and nicked him or cut an ear or something, then it could have gone another way.
Yeah.
But I think that, I'm no psychologist, but I think that like enforces the ability to do hard things and work through awkward situations and get through stuff like that. I don't think there's anything that prepares you as a parent for getting your kids haircuts.
No.
Because I don't know if there's many people that have had like an easy experience with the kid's first haircut.
But it's such a fucking stupid thing. Like, it's such a stupid thing. It's like losing a tooth. Yeah, I totally get it. My daughter's in her growing pain era. You don't even understand the growing pains I used to get as a kid. So like to see her in that pain, I do not cry very often, but it breaks my heart because I know the pain she's in and the dumb things you forget about, between 10 and 30 or whatever. Like, it was like a growing pain. I haven't thought about a growing pain in forever. Yeah. And now she's starting to get him, and I'm just like, oh God. And I'm sitting there rubbing her leg and rubbing her leg, like to try and make it feel better.
Are you talking to her about it as you're doing it?
Yeah.
So I find these moments funny. And sorry for the tiny tangent.
No. Go
Just because of the amount of times that you have outwardly harped on gentle parenting and the amount of gentle parenting you do.
No, it's insane.
Because that's what that is in my mind. That's my version of it. It's getting your kids through hard situations by connecting with them and sharing your emotions and trying to coach them through theirs. That's what that is to me. And like, I've had a very similar experience with Murph with her teeth stuff, because I had stuff done with my face and my teeth. I was a little bit older, but like, I know that pain. And when she's been walking through that with her expander, I'm able to relate to it and speak with her and talk with her through it and guide her her understanding of her emotions through it. I just found that really interesting in those moments.
I don't have a problem, just to clarify, listener, I don't have a problem with gentle parenting. It's the voice they use.
Yes.
When they tell you
It's the
to
person
gentle
that
parent.
personifies gentle parenting.
yes.
It's like
Like,
you look
it's-
at that person,
it's
you know what they look
smug.
like, you know what they
Gentle
sound like.
parenting face
Yes.
Yeah.
that reminds you of your kid getting a haircut, and you just want to give it a little whopping. Or
You
him.
need to make it your own. I think that's my message there. It's
That's
like,
fair.
I've made gentle parenting my own and what I think the version of it is. And I think that's what every parent needs to do.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I was like, it tested every ounce of me, and then in the back of my mind, I was like, driving down, I'm like, if this doesn't go well and I go home, I know it's going to cause a fight, because it's going to be like a thing where it's like, I've given all that I can give.
Yeah.
And yeah, I
think
know.
as a parent, like, you are often faced with the question of, do I want this fight right now?
Yeah.
Like with the kid, not necessarily with your spouse, but it's like,
I think it goes with both.
yeah, but like with your kid, where it's like, with the haircut, do I want to fight this right now? Or do I want to cancel this haircut, try cutting it at home, doing our own thing, or just letting his hair grow out and do what it wants to do?
Do you want to know what it was? I'll give you more context. The night before, Robin and I had made a thing where, like, if like it wasn't my idea, I'll just say that.
Gotcha.
but there is no more empty threats. If we say we're going to do something, we're going to do something.
Following through.
Because we're getting to a point where they're starting to take advantage.
Right.
So when I get instructions, I
We'll follow
follow
through.
instructions. So then the night before we have that conversation, then this night happens where we still do laydowns with our kids, and he wants mommy to do laydowns. But we had said, nope, it's daddy's night to do laydowns. So dad's doing laydowns. To the point where like I brush his teeth, we're good. I read him his stories, we're good. I'm laying down in his bed, we're good. Lights go off. I want mommy to do laydowns. I know, but it's all gonna be. I want mommy to do laydowns. One more kiss, one more hug. Boom, 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 boom. You can have one more kiss. You can have one more hug. But I'm doing laydowns. The thing goes, mommy comes in. Okay, I'll do laydowns. I'm like,
Right.
okay, cool. No,
Yeah.
because we said this is what it was gonna be.
Yeah.
So then she goes, okay, and then leaves. And I was like,
Now it's just sex on awkward ground. Yeah.
so now I'm here 20 minutes, them screaming the thing, and then I'm like, so there's like that little nugget that I just kind of put in my back pocket.
Yeah.
Then the next day, this thing happens where he's like, I don't want to go get my haircut. Boom. And I'm like, a huge part of me now is like, has that kind of resentment of last night still. Where I'm like, you're not winning this, dude. Like you are not, I will die on this hill,
Yeah.
but you are not winning this. And maybe that's where Robin's kind of fearful little like,
Right.
text me when you get there kind of came from.
Right.
But yeah, anyways, I don't know where I was going with that story.
I'm way more of a pushover and a give up on a thing.
I always have been.
But I feel like I did my kids a little bit of a disservice sometimes with that because we didn't work through the hard aspect or the uncomfortable aspect of something. I either stayed there or I made it comfortable. Like I wanted to be the nice parent or whatever. I didn't want to deal with the fight.
Well, we want to make it easy. Like,
Yeah.
we spend so much of our kids' lives when they're young and babies making their life as easy as we can, because that is part of that process. When they're a baby, you need to make their life easy, right? But then part of growing up and the growing pains is, like you're saying, walking through those hard things and learning that you can overcome them. But it's such a difficult thing to try to teach a toddler and a kid, right?
And just like whether or not you have the mental load as a parent in that moment to do it and to fight through that. Like that's where it takes a lot of like dedication and like mental fortitude as a parent alone to go through, because it's like whether it's food, whether it's a snack, whether it's eating their dinner or not eating their dinner, do they get dessert after dinner? Like there's so many potential fights with your kids throughout a day. And that's where it's like, there's been posts that I've seen where it's, do you want to be your kid's friend or do you want to be their parent?
Right.
As a parent, you know what they need for the long term of their growth, their health. The kids don't have that long term thought. They don't know what it means to have a healthy relationship with food in their 30s and not eating Doritos and pizza. Exactly. But I was very much given everything. I was given things as a kid. If I cried for something, I'd get it. Like that became very much just who I was. I still cry as things as an adult and get what I want. Like it's a method. It's not necessarily a good thing. It's a little pathetic when you're crying for sex, but no. Joking. All right. That hurts easy.
Brian's still here though. Like Brian's here, by the way. Brian's here. He's very much alive.
I'm here, guys. I'm not worried about it. Are you worried about it?
No, I wasn't, but I did want to ask you because I don't know what it was, and if you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to talk about it. But did you ever figure out what was going on with your neighbors?
My neighbors.
Yeah,
And
the spiking fence.
spiky fence.
Can we talk about it?
There's nothing. Nothing has happened.
Nothing has happened. Nothing has pissed me off more than that picture that you sent.
Right.
It's really aggressive. I don't think the things work, but I've never broached the subject with them.
Can I tell the context?
Yes.
So Brian sends a group text of a picture of his fence
Yes.
where his kids like to play.
Yep.
And your neighbors put on approximately 8 inches or so.
There's like
They were like zombie spikes.
they're like 3-inch tall spikes.
Yeah. This is like
on top of the fence, right where he climbs over the fence.
from our front yard to our backyard.
What the fuck do you do in that situation?
This is like, think about like you're trying to fortify your castle from invaders. You would put these spikes on the top of your wall to
And it's
injure.
like literally just there. They're nowhere else.
Are they still there?
Yeah, but Leo works his way around them.
Again, he's learned resiliency and overcoming things.
Oh my God.
They made him a better climber.
Yeah, exactly.
Was there any part of you that thought to stop him from climbing the fence
No.
anymore? It was
No.
like no, just keep doing what
Yeah,
you're
you'll
doing.
figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I had thought about going and like taking the spikes off the fence and throwing them in their yard.
Put them in behind their tire.
Yeah.
The
The raccoons must have done it. That's why you put them up, right? For the raccoons. It must have been them.
Honestly.
Yeah, but no, I didn't bother because I don't know. It didn't really become a problem.
It was a problem for me. I was very upset.
I find it interesting from the aspect of like what we let our kids do from a safety perspective.
Yeah.
And like we've talked about it before, I think as far as like playground play and stuff like that. But like learning how to hop a fence is kind of like an integral step in growing up. Like we've all climbed fences in our lifetime and we know how to hop fences. But with my daughter, we went to the park and there was this tree. And she was climbing up the tree, and it was one of those like, "Can I go higher?" I was like, "Sure, go higher." And like, "Sure, go higher, keep going." She's like, "But I don't know." I'm like, "As long as you have 2 points of contact and you feel safe, like you can do this." And she climbed like way higher than she's ever climbed before. Was like so amazed with herself.
That's awesome.
Climbed down and was like, I took a picture while she was up there, and you show her the picture, and it's like, "Oh my gosh, I was that high in the air," and you're like, "Yeah, that was way up there." Yeah, but it is an interesting aspect because even like my kids last night, I think it was last night, they came into the living room, grabbed the cushions off the couch. Like, "Where are you going with those?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it, Dad." And I was like, "Okay," and then you hear. And they were
Down the
riding the
stairs.
cushions down the stairs. But it was one of those moments when you look over to your wife and you're like, do we care about this right now? Like, is this a thing that we want to stop? We want to fight about? Or do we want to just let them do it? And we're just like,
Is it worth the
nah,
fight?
we're good.
The other day, or yesterday actually, I was on the toilet and all I hear in the other room is like, "Rise, stand here." And then you hear like Leo jump or something. And then there's like silence. And then there's a thud and another thud. And then Leo's like, "You okay?" She's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Let's not do that again."
Let's not do that again.
I'm like, perfect. I don't have to intervene.
Back to my doom scroll.
We've been like wrestling, and I have a thing like when you wrestle, you grab, you don't punch or kick.
Yeah,
So then my son is wrestling his sister now. There's an age gap. He's 3, she's 7, and he like grabs her. And then he goes to the thing. He's like, nope, we grab when we wrestle. We're wrestling. But he like hits his elbow twice and then goes in for the people's elbow.
Yeah.
So he'll get her on the ground and stand up and go, "Here you go." And then he jumps, misses. So when it's on the ground, it's really funny.
Oh, yeah.
But then he'll grab her and hold onto her as hard as he can, even if she's like walking away with him. And he's like, "I got you right where I want you." Just like
dragged along the floor.
just his little sayings and stuff like that is hilarious.
That's awesome.
But we're giving them the freedom of basically saying the same thing. Like, is it worth the fight right now? Or like, we're just going to let them figure this out for themselves. And what I've noticed is when he thinks he's getting in trouble, his eyes will light up and he starts to run away. So he like giggles. And we have these 2 ottomans, which are awkwardly placed. We have to get rid of one. Not important. So anyways, he's running and he like gymnastic styles, puts his hands on and like hurdles both legs over top of the corner like he's hopping a fence. And he's like, "Oh, they're onto us." And he like starts running and he hops and hurdles over this ottoman. And I'm like, "Bro, where the hell did you learn how to do that?"
This is parkour.
That's what and then it's hardcore parkour. That's what it is.
I wish he had said it when he did it. Parkour.
It is really funny. Just some of the shit that they do in those moments. You're just like, you're so cute. You're so adorable. I love watching you figure out life. But sometimes I want to punch you in the face.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just want to,
That's parenting.
you know?
Summed up in
There's
a
no
metaphor.
preparation for that. There's nothing that can prepare you for how to deal with those moments.
Yeah.
I did.
Speaking of that,
No, hold on.
you
Shut
do
up
your
for a
thing
second.
first. Mine's a different subject.
My editor, when we were talking, we were having like a little
Oh, my
conversation.
editor.
My editor.
look at me.
It's not as demure as you think it is.
He doubled down. He did. You were attacking him, and he was like, "Nah."
Yeah. Shut up, Dorito breath. Anyways,
Very
he's
thoughtful.
like, he brought up the subject of having kids and how he's afraid. He's 26, 27. He's like, I want to get my finances figured out. I said, very responsible of you, but they're not as expensive as you think. Like you figure it out. You stop going out to the bars and you start like, paying for diapers kind of thing. The real fucked up part is like the haircut situation or like dinner time. Like dinner time is the worst time of day when you're a parent of little kids. They fight. They don't want to eat anything. They like it 10 minutes ago. Like those are the things that they don't tell you about in your parenting books.
Yeah.
That are a constant makes you want to quit your job.
And those are the things that are expensive because it's the retail therapy you spend on yourself. It's not the money you spend on the kids. It's the comfort things you buy for yourself.
Yeah. Anyways, I was going somewhere with that before Dave tried to chirp me and I lost all track.
Well, I was going to say, because you touched on the things they don't prepare you for, we had the sex talk with Murph.
Whoa.
Big moment. So, my daughter's
version of the sex talk?
So we had what we are calling the beginner sex talk with her. So we've been
Animals?
pretty open. No, people.
Interesting.
So we've been pretty open with our kids right at the get-go as far as when they asked where babies come from. It was you were in mommy's belly, you came out through mommy's vagina, she pushed you out. That's how babies come out of people. We wanted to be pretty open with them right out of the gate with that. So she's known that since she was probably 4 or 5 when she first started talking about it. But she's had more questions recently about, but she knew that dads have a part in that, but she doesn't know what that part is, obviously, up until this point. But she started to ask a lot more questions about that. How does the baby get into the belly? Why does daddy have any part in the baby getting into the belly?
What's this chair hanging from the ceiling?
Yeah, exactly. A lot more context around
this
that.
inquisitive little shit.
Oh, yeah.
Stop asking questions.
You need to
and go play with your Play-Doh, damn it.
You're no longer going to school. So yeah, we made the decision, Meg and I, because this started probably, I'm going to say a month ago. She started to ask more inquisitive questions around the subject, and we could tell she wasn't letting it go. And one of the content creators that we kind of watch in that space, that's what they said. Your kid's going to tell you when they need to know this stuff.
Right.
Don't try to overthink it as a parent of what are the milestone ages they need to
failing.
get at to know this. Am I not preparing my kid enough? It's like, no, your kids are going to, if you have a good communicative relationship with them, they'll kind of cue you up as to where they're at with this. So we had that thought. That's where she's kind of at. So we did follow a bit of a process of that content creator because one of her kind of lines that she uses, it's not as much of the content that you say to your kids, it's how you say it. If you are bringing this very awkwardness to it, but also not labeling that awkwardness, then they're going to feel awkward. So she's like, one of the big things is you're going to be awkward because chances are you didn't have this conversation with your parents.
Right.
So label it right out of the gate. So that's what we did. We're like, hey, we want to talk to you about this. We had already told her we wanted to have a talk with her. And Meg said, because we made the decision to let Meg kind of run it more with Murph because we want Meg to be more of her point person in this because she has more of an understanding of her body as she goes through period changes, stuff like that. So she said, listen, this is going to be a bit of a weird conversation, and this is an awkward conversation that we didn't get to have with our parents, but we want to be able to have with you. So if we seem awkward and off, it's because we're awkward and off, but that's okay too. Ask questions around it, yada, yada, yada. And we went through just basically the beginner level of, okay, this is how it goes down. There's a man and a woman. One of the things we were very specific about that we wanted to be specific about with her was the verbiage of the woman allows the man to put his penis in their vagina. And we wanted to be very specific about that verbiage so that that's something that's ingrained into her. It's always your choice to whether or not sex is going to happen. But again, we didn't gear anything towards her or things happening to her with her, yada, yada, yada. It was just all very clinical in a sense.
Yeah.
That goes in there. Sperm goes out. It fertilizes the egg. That's how
Do you
the
use
baby
these
gets-
words?
Yep. We
Crazy.
label everything, use the real words. That's another thing that's just important to us is using the real words.
Yeah.
We don't want her to have any discomfort around what are just body terms.
Yeah,
That's what they are. So that's how we ran it. And she took everything really well in stride and asked a couple of questions along the way, but was mostly just a kid about it. And that's the thing too, right? She's still only 7.
Yeah.
She doesn't grasp the grandeur of this conversation, but we felt like it was time to start that conversation with her.
Interesting.
Yeah,
For
and
you.
we had brought in, so another point this woman had, again, with beginner level of all of it. So she said it can be important to bring up porn when you have this initial conversation. And the way we bring it up is, hey, there's, you know, how we watch cartoons and movies where what's happening isn't real. Well, there's that stuff around sex as well. And you may come across that. You may see it on someone else's phone. You may see it at school if somebody shows you. Those are movies. Those aren't real. It's called porn, and it's what we're talking about, sex, and it's just a movie form that isn't real. But if you come across it, if you have any questions, we're always here to talk about it. So I found those approaches is what we wanted to use for it. We'll see how it pans out as far as she grows up and as she goes through it. She
I
has
am
brought it
not
back up
ready
again.
for that.
We weren't ready for it either.
And that's just it. Like, it is a reoccurring conversation
Yes.
that evolves with their learning and with their questions. Because like we've had some of those talks where it's just been like, cool, like bye, like
Yeah.
I'm not in, like I don't really want to know. I don't want to talk about it. We're good. Like
Yeah.
they don't really care. They're not interested. But we're in that stage, obviously, with my son being 12.
Right.
Getting into having to have those porn talks and conversations. And he was going over to a buddy's house to have a sleepover.
Right.
And I think it was probably around grade 7 or 8 when I was introduced to it from a friend who put on like a VHS tape or a DVD or something
Being
like
aged
that.
currently.
Yeah, it was, and I remember being exposed to that and not really understanding what was going on, but you do kind of understand, but then you don't. And so my wife and I have been having a lot of these conversations as far as like, how much do you let your kids discover things on their own, and how much do you talk to them about things?
Right.
And we haven't really come to any answers or resolutions about those things, and even about porn and the industry and what our baselines are for that, what we're okay with, what we're not okay with, how they discover these things. And my wife has a very different experience and point of view that I have, and I have my experience in my life that I'm bringing to the conversation, and it's a very weird conversation to navigate.
Yeah.
But again, knowing when your kid is ready for the conversation. So I mentioned it to my son and was like, okay, like, just so you know, like, there are pictures out there of naked people. Why would anybody want to see that?
Right.
And then he went to the party.
What grade are you in
Grade 7.
at 12?
Yeah.
When's his birthday?
He's an October kid.
Interesting.
So some kids will be 13 in grade 7.
Yeah.
So talked to him after the sleepover and was like, so like, did anybody, do they look at that on their phone? Do they have access to that? Because we have a lot of restrictions on the kid's phone, but we don't know what other parents have restrictions on their kids' phones or not. He's like, yeah, the one kid had like a picture and he was showing the other kid, and they asked me if I wanted to see it. And I was like, no, why would I want to look at that? And it was one of those like, okay, he's still at the age where, not cooties, but it's like, I don't understand why anybody would want to see that.
The
And like,
curiosity's not there yet.
yeah, and even like talking about like sex and stuff, like, but why would anybody want to do that? And it's like, well, it's fun.
Right.
But like you don't know that yet, and like your
Yeah.
body's not really ready to understand that yet. But it's awkward because we're very much on that like precipice of him getting older,
It's gonna
learning
be a part
about
of
these
his life
things,
now,
and
right?
it's hard having that husband-wife conversation about how we want to handle things and figuring out what we want to do, what conversations we want to have, because we don't want to build shame around that area of life, but we also don't want him exposed to things that he doesn't necessarily need to be exposed to. And there's a evolving conversation. I don't know if we're ready to have that conversation. I didn't really have porn on the docket for tonight, but
No, I was not expecting that one. I can tell you that for free.
Joey with the runch.
Okay, you brought that back.
It's interesting, and I don't want to get too much into it, but like I lost my virginity when I was 13.
Right.
So you start thinking about
Like when your kids start reaching
That,
your
yeah.
milestones.
that you're just kind of like, ew. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. It's a different context once you're
and
a
like,
parent, right?
I remember thinking I was so much older
Same.
at certain
Yeah.
ages. Like you feel
Oh, yeah.
older and mature, and you look at your kids, and I feel like you always look at your kid as a kid. And I remember my dad saying that I stopped aging at like, I forget what age it was, like 20 or something like that. He's like, to me, you're always that age. I don't care how much you grow up, how much you, and like my son for me is locked in at like 7, 8. Like I just remember him as that. And you see his like him growing, his face changing, it maturing. You see old pictures on your phone and you're like, no, that's who this little boy is still. You're still this little kid. So like it gets awkward as a parent because they're still the little kid, but they're growing up and they're maturing and experiencing life. And that's where that's like, how much do you let them just experience life and be there as a somebody for them to be able to talk to? And how much as kids are we programmed to no longer want to listen to the advice of our parents because you're at an age where you're growing and where biologically you normally would be separating from the home and going out on your own. But now life, we stay with our parents a lot longer than we would have way back in the day, say. So it's like biologically, I think there is this like desire to distance yourself from your parents. And for us right now, we're at a stage where we so badly want to create an ecosystem for our kids that is bigger and beyond my wife and I, so that they have Joe to go talk to. They have Brian, they have Mark, they have these uncles, these aunts, or these other people in their life that they feel like they could have that safe conversation with without it being awkward with talking to your parent about something. So it's like you want to be able to create and build that ecosystem for them, but then you're like, how much is that just tampering with your kid's life, and how much can you control, how much is out of your control? At what point in life as a parent do you stop caring? It's like a weird concept, but like you think of like as your kids become teenagers and young adults and move out of the house, you're no longer involved in their decision-making process. At some point, we lose that control. You get to take your son to have a haircut, and you get to dictate
Shut
that.
up, motivational Dave. Honestly, no, I'm not here for it tonight.
He turns 16.
Don't bring up the haircut.
He turns 18.
I
and
look
he
forward to
makes
those times. I honestly, I do.
And I'm not even saying that from like, you should enjoy this. I'm just saying that like you are in control of your kid's life. But there's going to be a point where we are no longer the ones making the decisions for them, and they get to start making their own life choices. And I think like I still have time. My wife and I said we're in this like little sweet spot right now where my oldest isn't quite into being like a teenager, and our youngest is like old enough that she's independent and she's not a little butt. Like we're in this really sweet spot of parenting, but like I can't help think about future Dave and like the future, because I'm always just that person looking ahead and like looking beyond. And it's like I want to enjoy this little sweet pocket we're in right now, but I also want to like prepare ourselves for those teenage years.
And I think that was part of the motivation for Meg and I with having conversations like that, is just having those beginner conversations. You're just introducing a subject to say, this is a subject where it's more adult. But we're always here to talk about it. If you have any questions, this is what it is. We wanted the explanation, the initial explanation of what these things are, to come from us. Because they're, like you said, they're going to figure it out from someone eventually. We just, for that subject, especially with Murph, I'll phrase it that way. Like, especially her being a girl, for me, in my opinion, it was very important for me that is something she heard from me and Meg, as far as an explanation around that subject. And hopefully that just starts to build that confidence in them to come to us with anything. If they come into a conversation, if they get shown something at school, if whatever happens, they know that it doesn't matter the subject. I don't need to be embarrassed to come to mom and dad with this, because they've already showed me that they can have embarrassing conversations with me.
And that's a hard thing. It is way easier to parent not doing anything.
I was sweating for 3 days about this. It was so uncomfortable for me because, like, again, there's no context. Like, I didn't have this conversation with my parents at all. I never talked to my mom about sex until I was with Meg, and she was like, "I'm pretty sure you guys are having sex." I was like, "Cool, I guess that's a sex talk." Like there was no, like there's no point of reference for it, right? So we're
think
making this up as we go along.
That was one thing that I really appreciated from watching. I think it was Netflix's show called The Sex Room or Sex Rooms or something like
How
that.
to build a sex
And
room.
it was like a renovation show on building sex rooms. But the way that the host communicated with the people that were on the show was so casual.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there watching that being like, oh my God, this is so
It's a 30-year-old man.
And it's the same as like you think back to like Sex with Sue, and it's just this old lady on a microphone. You do this and you do that, and these are the positions and these are the dolls, and she's just so candid about it.
Yeah.
And there is something so freeing about having those types of conversations, whether it's with your spouse or whether you're having to have these conversations with other adults or teens or whatever that is, but
Right.
having it be a more candid conversation because it shouldn't be something that is so awkward, but it is.
Yeah. Well, this is the
weird.
thought I was having, and if you'll allow me, I'd like to say something really weird right now. I would like to have my kids to have good sex lives.
Right.
Like, I would like that to not be a hurdle for them.
I don't
in
think
their
that's
life, right?
weird at all.
I don't want what I have to have gone through. But like thinking about it, like I don't want them to have like the shame wrapped around it and have to figure things out that
Exactly,
nobody told them
yeah.
about. And like for it to be something that my daughter's confident in, to be like, unless you're good at it, I don't want to have it with you, right? Because I want it to be something that I'm going to enjoy. Like I want her to have that kind of confidence in her life. And that doesn't happen without us putting in the work now, I think. Like, I think it's very rare for someone to gain that confidence just all on their own out in the world. I think that takes a very special human being to figure that out on their own. Not to say that they couldn't by any means, but I think that starts with great communication at these stages.
I am happy for you. That's okay.
You're happy with your daughter.
Regal Ideas, thank you for this wonderful opportunity.
It's really that uncomfortable?
Kawartha home groups of Cobaconk, Lindsay, Lakefield,
Bridge North, Millbrook.
Millbrook.
They're there for the awkward conversations too.
Yeah.
Great. Well,
Mark has led the chat.
I got nothing left to say.
Yep.
I think but I think that is a very valid thing in that you're not at that point or you're not ready to have those conversations. Your kids might not be ready to.
Why would somebody want to look at that photo? That's where I feel like I'm at. No one gets it.
Yeah.
No one gets it.
I didn't get it.
I didn't get it.
That one was lost on me.
Ben.
Oh, right.
Right. Why are we there?
I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet, and I don't know if it was just such a privatized thing growing up
Yeah.
that like I have 5 brothers, but it was like no one ever talked about it.
Yeah.
No one ever it just wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so on the fence with that conversation of like how much self-discovery is a good thing and how much should you be informed about. Like I think because like even like we talk about our kids climbing trees or doing other things, like there is a level to watching your kid, whether that's playing with a new toy that they get, figuring out how something works, figuring out how to cook food, and like discover these things of life on their own when they have that own like their self-discovery moments with things. Where does that carry through in life in that regard or not?
And even the fact that there isn't an answer to that, right? Because every kid's going to be different for what they
Yeah.
need, right?
I think setting them up, like helping them know what the risks are, is always like no matter what it is,
Yeah.
right? Is like a good starting point, and then it will just like branch off from there.
Yeah, letting them figure it out.
I just love because
Yeah.
we've got some like new dads who just had babies listening, and they're like, "Whoa, where are these guys going here?"
Start thinking about the sex talk now, friends.
I do
And we
enjoy-
lost
on ya.
4 Patreons after this episode.
I do enjoy that, like, as our kids all grow, that this podcast and conversation is going
Yeah.
to continue to evolve and change.
But I also love that the internet is forever.
Yeah.
So like hopefully one day they're able to come back and listen
and understand where we were
Where
struggling
it's like
with
a diary,
yeah.
like a dad diary kind of thing, where
They'll
can,
have a podcast analyzing past episodes of our podcast, being like, so here's where my dad fucked up.
Yeah.
All I wanted to do was stay home and have my candy and watch my show. But no, he was like, we're going to get a haircut. And I was all like,
but like, you know, like my dad is towards the end of his life. And I would love to know more about his story. Even like I remember growing up, my parents got divorced, and I would love to know like how he dealt with some of the things.
yeah.
And like just even like just little things like what. Yeah, I don't know.
His thoughts, right? Like these are our thoughts.
He's not the type of person that would be vulnerable enough to have those conversations to begin with.
Right.
So it's just nice to know that in 10 years we'll still be doing this. But Ben will be at an age where he's like
22.
but he might not, maybe not at 22, but he might like listen to it candidly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Just to kind of like hear your sigh or your
Right.
like whatever it is that you do kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
It is neat to think about, and even for the listener, right? Like, and that's why we love the interaction in the community, because it's something that these people who are listening, you're not necessarily out there making your own podcast about your parenting journey, but you're being thoughtful about the stuff that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And you're messaging us on DMs and telling us your story, and that is also going to live on forever, right? And you'll have that as a reference point. And I don't know, I think that's why we stress the importance of community and talking and sharing, because I think it does give you a lot to be able to reflect on as your kids grow up.
It's really funny because I hate like texting people. It's like on brand for me to go like days without replying back to things. But there's like 3 or 4 listeners that creepishly somehow got my cell phone number and they'll text me after when like that things, and I look forward to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it is really funny. So anyways.
So wait, before you,
It's 7:30 at night, Dave.
sick for 2 goddamn weeks. This is my first day out of the house.
Oh my god, Brian didn't talk for the first 2 hours of this episode.
I still
I just
barely
want to be with
talk.
my friends. All right,
Dave,
so
I'll stay.
let's get into Joey's therapy. Joey,
Are you kidding me?
I'm up for it.
Whelp this shit and let's go.
All right.
Well,
That was fantastic.